Hello and welcome to Chapter 126 of the DC Alliance podcast. With me, as always, is Clay. Clay, how you doing this evening?
I've been better. As the GUA knows, and I let people on Twitter know, but I threw out my back on Sunday, and my God, I if I always joked around about me being old, right? I always joke around with Abby and with my grandparents. Like I always joke around with my grandfather especially because he's so active. And I'm like, "Oh, grandpa, I can't help you do that today. I'm too old." And just kind of poking fun at myself and everything else. But today he kind of got me. I was attempting to walk over to their house because like I said before, they're not very far from me. It's like 10 paces outside of my side door, and currently, I can't walk faster than a freaking turtle because I blew up my back. And my grandfather was like, "Hey, you want to race?" And I was like, "Oh, you son of a gun!" Like, and see, yeah, I can't laugh all that much because it does give me a little bit of a sharp pain. Um, but Abby took me to the acupuncturist this morning. I don't think it did anything whatsoever. Uh, they were like, "Oh, it probably won't feel anything now, but we want you to come back on Wednesday, and we're pretty sure that like once you have like 3 to 5 sessions, you'll be good." And I'm just like, "Oh, so you want me to dish out like $400 and then I'll be okay?" Like that is the kind of kick in the nuts for me, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, I have been better, but I think it's going to be a very interesting show tonight. The pain is manageable as long as I don't laugh, and yeah, it's going to be a good show.
Now, normally we wouldn't have much for you to laugh about or even talk about lately because we were pretty quiet on the news front. But Clay, we've got a lot of news last week, a lot of news again this week. Like damn, we knew I know coming out of STCC we would have some news, even though the panel's only an hour long. We'll talk about how we'll talk about SDCC a little bit, and we'll talk about news in a little bit. But before we do that, I will get the network plugs out of the way. Of course, we are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance with 8 shows in total. On Mondays is Slice of Film. That's with Katie and guest hosts Mark and Sarah. They take a look at new movies, old movies, and everything in between. They posted 2 new episodes this week, Clay. And what were they? I know one was The Gray Man.
So we were kind of poking at ourselves for now poking at us, and I'll just say this: it was only supposed to be one episode that dropped today, but
Oh,
he dropped two. So the 2 episodes that came out today was The Gray Man, and then a very short episode on Everything Everywhere All at Once.
okay.
There, I will go ahead and give slight spoilers. They weren't very positive on Gray Man, so they started talking about everything everywhere all at once, and I decided as the editor, hey, let's get some more clicks on this, and I went ahead and made it 2 separate episodes. Uh,
Okay.
so the first one is Gray Man, and just a very short kind of just back and forth on what they thought, Mark and Katie thought about everything everywhere all at once, or everywhere every I don't I always get confused on that damn title. I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard great things about the movie.
Yeah, I know Gray Man. People, what I've heard good things about that from some people. I know my father wanted to watch that this weekend when he got home visiting, and I think we ended up watching The Edge, a 1998 movie on Disney Plus with Alec Baldwin and Anthony Hopkins and a giant grizzly bear.
Oh, I always forget that you guys have movies that aren't on our Disney Plus. When you said The
Yeah,
Edge on Disney Plus, I was like, "What?"
yeah, it was insane. I was like, "This is so cool." I can't remember. I vaguely remember this, but I don't. And the grizzly scenes, it was funny, and my dad enjoyed it, so it was pretty good. I'm interested to check out what they have to think about Gray Man. I'm probably going to watch that this weekend. So check Katie out and her guests or co-hosts Mark and Sarah for all the new movies that drop. That rotates bi-weekly with Ranger Alliance with Clay and rotating guest hosts of Jake and Joe. They got you covered on anything and everything Power Rangers. Obviously, with Slice of Film on this week, it's a bye week for Ranger Alliance, but they will be back next week, of course. On Tuesdays is this show, DC Alliance, with myself and Clay. We got you covered on anything and everything DC. Sandman is starting this week. We will figure out what we're going to do when they let us know if they're dropping all of it at once or holding it. I don't know exactly, or is it going to be one half and then another half? I'm not sure about that. I don't know if you know, Clay.
Uh,
I know
for for what was it? I'm sorry, I got a
Sandman.
little.
Sandman.
Sandman, we're still not entirely sure. So the
Okay.
really cool thing is, me and Chris both got screeners for an early premiere, basically just the red carpet premiere, on Wednesday.
Okay.
So, oh, I just realized maybe I won't be able to watch it because of Star Wars Alliance, but um we are gonna see if they're gonna drop more than one episode at the premiere.
Okay.
And if they do, then I will be able to tell you and tell Joe, and then we can work out everything as far as how we are going to cover that show.
Yeah. And on Wednesdays is Superhero Discussions, my show that covers animation. We are on the go with Harley Quinn. Actually, there's been a couple episodes coming out from Superhero Discussions this past week. We dropped a review of Green Lantern, Beware My Power. And then we dropped on Saturday a Harley Quinn review. Joe joined me for both of those. We talked about the first three episodes of Harley Quinn season three. Fantastic show. I really enjoyed them. I think the first episode was the weakest of the three. We get into that right away, so it's not really that much of spoilers. But I'll save my scores for the episode. On Thursdays is Star Wars Alliance with Katie and Clay. They get you covered on anything and everything Star Wars. Obviously, they're going to be talking about the new Andor trailer coming up on Wednesday. So, well, it'll drop on Thursday. So I can't wait to hear you guys break down that trailer and that poster. My God, why can't we have great posters like that all the time? I love those style of posters. I don't know. It reminded me of just like they were outlaws on the poster, like they were
Yeah.
wild. Like I really love that design. On Fridays is Marvel Alliance with Chris and Brent. They get you covered on anything and everything Marvel. Obviously, She-Hulk is starting in a couple of weeks, so I can't wait to hear the guys talk about that. I'm getting excited for that show. On Saturdays, bi-weekly is a walk through the multiverse with Joe. That's where he got you covered on everything that isn't DC, Marvel, or Star Wars. On Sundays, monthly is World's Finest True Believers with Chris Belga. That's where Chris and a guest take a look at a comic of the guest's choice. But sometimes Chris does comic creators and interviews them. And boy, oh boy, did he have an episode that dropped this Sunday. Listeners, I finished it, I think Sunday when it dropped. I was walking my dog. My girlfriend asked if she could come on the walk with me and Buddy. And I told her, "You can come, but I'm listening to World's Finest True Believers in one of my ears because I wanted to listen to the episode because he interviewed Mike Grell. Uh, from my knowledge, most importantly, is the Longbow Hunters. And to hear him
Yes.
talk some of those stories, Clay, and hear him talk to Chris, I know Chris is a big fan as well. He has some artwork done by him signed up on his wall. Grell means a lot to Chris, and that interview was fantastic. I really enjoyed it, and I thought Grell was hilarious at times.
I have not been able to listen to it yet. I do plan on it this week. But yeah, the creator spotlight that he was able to pull, I will go ahead and say I knew about it beforehand. But I was really, really excited to listen to it nonetheless. Yeah, I will be completely honest. The Mike Grell was never one of my favorite artists, but his inclusion into the DC comics just he's a part of DC's legends. And so I'm really, really looking forward to hearing how all of that came about. And I've heard that he does not shy away from talking some other topics about DC and some other creators. So I'm looking forward to getting all of that juicy gossip as well.
I will say this to listeners. Clay will not know this. Vindication. That's all I will say. And Clay, you will message me whenever you listen to the episode and know the inside joke I was making. Uh, DC Alliance goes live on the Geekverse YouTube channel Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Star Wars goes live on the Geekverse YouTube channel Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And Marvel Alliance goes live at Thursdays at 9:10 p.m. Eastern Time. All three of those shows also have their own podcast feeds. Search Marvel Alliance, DC Alliance, or Star Wars Alliance for Marvel content, DC content, or Star Wars content only. But if you want all 8 shows on the network, subscribe to the Geek Ultimate Alliance on your podcast app of choice. We also have a Patreon, Clay, 2 tiers, $1 tier and a $5 tier. The dollar tier is basically a tip jar. You like what we're doing and you want to help us out any way you can. And the $5 tier is where you get your extras. You get your ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and Patreon exclusive episodes. Listeners, I'm going to get together with Joe and we're going to record sometime this week. My parents were in last weekend. They got home from Alberta, the province. I'm trying to think. 5,000 kilometers away. I'm not doing the math for miles, but I saw them in a year. So my weekend was 100% occupied, and I just got them on the road. I want to say, 5 o'clock today, heading out towards my hometown for a few nights. So I have a bit of time now to catch up, watch those 2 Wonder Woman 75 and 74. So myself and Joe can get together and chat about that. But we also have the guys over at Marvel Alliance doing the We Can Watch This All Day MCU rewatch. The most recent one is Avengers, so please join the Patreon for that. We also have Clay doing his. I'm going to call it. I can't remember the actual title right now, but I'm going to describe it. Clay watches shows for the first time, and right now he's starting Game of Thrones, which was a huge cultural phenomenon. If I'm being honest with you, it was like worldly. I don't know how he didn't get on the bandwagon. Props to him. I bet you after a few seasons, it just was like, yeah, screw you. I'm not doing that till that's over, or something along those lines. But it's great. I can't wait for you to finish the final episode of the season, just to see. Like,
I I have seen the back half of the very last episode of the entire series. So I
yeah,
know how a handful of characters end their story. So because of that, I was like, I might as well just go ahead and finish the whole thing. So I went back. It's called For the First Time, and the show will be what the title is. So it's For the First Time Game of Thrones. I did not have an episode drop today because of everything that was happening this weekend with my new job as well as blowing out my back. So this week I am going to be doing 2 episodes to catch up.
ooh, I can't wait for you to message me to talk about Game of Thrones because I'm really interested just to hear your reactions to just the show, just the storylines and just what happens. Also, we have Joe's multiverse minutes. We have my top fives. We have Clay and Snell doing the whole Batman 89 comic. We have Katie doing Star Wars comics with her husband. Uh, and we're always looking to add things. So we thank anyone and everyone that's a patron. But if you can't, if you can take quick 30 to 60 seconds to rate and review the podcast on your podcast app of choice, that would be greatly appreciated. It helps us be found by new listeners, and that's always nice. So, Clay, I think that's everything. Let's get into the show. And I told you I wanted to punt initially on what we were going to talk about, just because the Flash TV show has ended. It's gotten its curtain call. It's gotten its notice. It is ending with a abbreviated season 9 of 13 episodes. Thank you, Clay, for the. I'm very glad that you found that picture. I saw that floating around earlier. Listeners, if you're not watching live, you're seeing the classic Grant Gustin where he's standing with the piece in front of what originally was Oliver Queen's headstone. It got memed to death with every single thing. And now he's doing it to his own self, which it comes full circle, Clay. Everything comes full circle in this life. So it's I'm a little sad at one note, listeners, because I'll just tell you, like when this show first came out, I would watch the first episode of the season, then I'd watch the second episode of the season, then I'd go back and watch the first and second episode of the season before the third episode, and do that for the entirety of the season, for the first 2 seasons. That's how much I enjoyed this show. But after season 3, and even including season 3, but if season 3 is comparative to the rest of it, it started to fall off for me. And it's nothing to do with Grant Gustin, because I think he's a fantastic Flash. And when he was on crossovers, and there are certain episodes, like even in season 5, there's a Flash Time episode where there's a nuclear bomb that's going to go off, and he's basically in Flash Time for the entirety of the episode. That is a fantastic episode, and that's deep into the show. But it really ran its course for me. It kind of went on too long. Just creatively, I found that it just suffered. And I don't know when you fell off, Clay. I know I fell off last season, season 7. So I don't know when you fell off.
I fell off. So I was like you. I watched Arrow live
Yeah.
every single week. And then as soon as I saw or heard that Barry Allen was going to be making an appearance on Arrow, I was like, oh shit, they're going to make a show that's going to be amazing. I fell off of the Flash. I think really I started to check out after season, where was oh shoot, what is his
Thinker?
name? I think after that season.
Season 5, I think. After
I
the
think so,
Thinker, it was.
because season 4 was Savitar, and then him was the
No,
Thinker.
season 3 was Savitar. Season 4 was the Thinker. Season 5 was, I think it was that guy that Chris Klein played, and then his daughter killed uh killed him.
The one with the dagger.
Yeah. I can't
Okay,
remember his name.
so I think, yeah, that was the episode or the season. It ran its course. Yes, it did.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you,
Very,
Joe.
very,
Joe is
very
here for the
good.
pod.
Slow clap. Thank you. No, the dagger season was the one that I really was kind of just like watching it just to kind of like see the heroes on the screen. I wasn't really watching it for the story, which is a shame, man. We always have these discussions in the GUA about the massive amounts of nerd content that we are getting right now, whether it be Star Wars, whether it be Marvel, whether it be DC, whatever. And I remember watching Smallville. We talk about this, and we're gonna be talking about season 1, episode 3 later on tonight. But I remember watching Smallville and thinking, like, we are so grateful to have such a good show on TV right now. And then the DCCW happened with the Arrowverse, and I was like, holy crap, I don't think life could get better than this. And of course, everything gets better. That's how time should progress, is things get better. And the way the DCCW went, my God,
It just
it
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 stayed the same
flatlined.
course. It just
It
stayed the same
flatlined
course.
for a while.
But so
Uh,
many other properties just advanced the ball further. Like they took the ball. Let's give the Arrowverse, DCCW, whatever you want to call it, its credit. Like at a time, the Marvel TV was nowhere near it until they started putting it Netflix stuff. But Marvel MCU had no TV. And well, they had some, but it was loosely connected at best. And this DCCW managed to connect several shows. There was a lot of successful, great crossovers. Many before we got to some bad ones like Armageddon, but it got to be commended for what it did. But the problem was, Clay, it still tried to operate the exact same way. Tried to get as many seasons out of the way it operated, out of the budget it had, the VFX it had. Nothing got increased enough, and they never tried to improve anything. The way they filmed, maybe to give them longer to work on the VFX, none of that stuff. It was just, let's do the same thing because it's basically our version of McDonald's. We have 4 that we can churn out over like every week. So it, it got frustrating at time, but it's still so good for so long, the whole Arrowverse. So it's smart too that Superman and Lois distinguish yourself from the Flash. Now it can keep going on, and you can end the Flash and even Stargirl. I don't know what, I assume Stargirl is going to be canceled after this season or not picked up, not renewed, but that could even exist because that's already designated on its own Earth as well.
Yeah, I assume that it's going to run its course with this last season. I'm going to call it its last. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to call it with you. season 3
I'm
will
not
be its
sure
last.
100% just because of some of the people they've had in like Luke Wilson, for example. I don't see a commitment like that on uh, for the Flash even now. So
Well, I will say one thing though. Isn't and I may be way off, but oh well actually, you know what? I'm thinking of the wrong Wilson. Never mind. I was gonna call out Wedding Crashers and I thought they were gonna do like something with that, but
no, he's not.
that's the wrong Wilson.
Yeah.
Um no, but I will go ahead and call it. I think season 3 will be its last because as of I mean, even when it was airing, I didn't hear much buzz on Stargirl. I have not heard much buzz on any of the shows like I have Superman and Lois.
And I'm gonna be honest with you, I think the only reason I'm hearing about Superman and Lois, just the marketing part is from Bitsy Tulloch. So I don't know if like maybe one of the actors or actresses on Stargirl needs to start sharing some of the marketing because there was a time where you get inside the episode before every one of these. You'd find out like what the motivations were going into the episode from the writers, and there's none of that anymore.
Yeah.
That is
I don't
stopped.
I don't know why they kind of just I'm not going to say outright that they stopped caring, but it
It's CW. It's the
feels like
money.
that.
It's just the money thing. When CW was a casualty of the merger, basically, in one way or another.
Yeah.
Okay, Clay. Let's get into the actual news that we had now set up. And the first topic, obviously, is the death of Superman 30th anniversary special number 1 is going to be available November 8th, and DC celebrates the 30th anniversary of the death of Superman with all new stories by the original creative team. Clay, what do you think when you heard about this?
I was really nervous. So for those of you who are big into comics, you know that here at San Diego Comic Con, they also announced Dark Crisis, the Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, which is a quote unquote direct sequel from the original uh, Crisis on Infinite Earths. Which a lot of people had a problem with the idea of like, oh, does that mean Infinite Crisis, Final Crisis, and all these other events are not direct sequels? And there's a lot of controversy that weekend at San Diego Comic Con. When this was teased or even announced, I was worried at the fact that this could mean that, oh, everything that was post Death of Superman, they're going to treat, oh, that wasn't really important. This will be the actual direct sequel. Um, and something like that just to try to sell a book. And I understand that's the whole point of DC Comics. They're trying to sell books. But knowing that this is basically the original creators are going into the story of the death of Superman and just placing a story in the middle of it. They're not going to completely rewrite something or act as though everything else didn't matter. This is something that I actually really love that creators do is they're able to take a story that has already been written and they add on it without changing anything. These stories are not going to change anything about the actual story of the death of Superman. They're just going to add on to it in a small, indirect way. And I enjoy that.
Do you want me to, listeners? I'm going to read out the stories that we're going to get.
Yeah.
Uh, the Life of Superman, which is by Dan Jurgens, with Brett Breeding and Brad Anderson and John Workman. And as a young John Kent finds out in school that his dad died years earlier, as his parents never told him about that fateful day. In the midst of dealing with this emotional news, John and Clark need to team up to fight a new villain connected to Doomsday called Doombreaker. The second one is Standing Guard by Roger Stern, Butch Guice, Glenn Whitmore, and Rob Lee. The epic battle between Superman and Doomsday from the Guardian's perspective. Time, which is by Louise Simonson, John Bogdan, Glenn Whitmore, and Rob Lee. The story of how the death of Superman looked from John Henry Irons' perspective. And Above and Beyond by Jerry Ordway, Tom Grummett, Doug Hazelwood, Glenn Whitmore, and Rob Lee. A powerful story of Mom and Pa Kent watching their son fight Doomsday live on television and going through Clark's photo albums with the feeling that their son always prevails.
I like it. Uh, my first interaction with the Death of Superman story, um, my dad, back in the day when I started to show interest in wanting to collect comics, he made me read the novelization of the Death of Superman by Roger Stern.
Oh,
Um, so I love that story. Um, I am really interested in the Henry Irons story just because there's a part, and it wasn't really played off that much in the actual comic, but in the novel, you actually see Superman save John Henry Irons from a construction site, and that kind of starts John Henry Irons' not obsession, but just like, oh, that's Superman, you know. So I've always loved the character of John Henry Irons. Really looking forward to this, and I have already seen a number of the variant covers that are coming out of this. This is going to hurt my wallet. Like I already know it is. From John Henry Irons' perspective, that would be a building on his back. He's not wrong because there were times that like because of what happened during that day, he was in rubble and whatnot.
Joe, nice way to subtly get a back dig in on Clay without even Clay really realizing. I think that's why Joe put that in there.
Oh, I didn't even realize it. Just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm actually
So
looking forward to the special. Uh, but I I'm really looking forward to it. And even Joe and I have talked about it with Chris. We dub ourselves the comic book crew. Um, the variant covers are gonna look very nice, and I don't know how much I'm gonna put into it, but I know I'm gonna grab at least three.
ooh.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to reading these. I think The Life of Superman interests me. That one and Above and Beyond. Actually, all three of the ones of the watching the fight from other people's perspective because I want to know what's going on in their minds, especially John Henry Irons, like you said. I want to know if like this fight is majority reason why he goes the route he goes. Like well, like obviously the Superman saving him is a big part of it, but like when this fight is going on, is this when this pushes him to start making the suit and like get involved? Is this like his pushing point, seeing what Superman's doing there?
yeah.
Yeah. So Clay, we got to get into some more juicy topics, like Alan Horn is joining Warner Brothers Discovery as in a consultant role. So this was a little crazy.
We had already heard rumblings of this. We heard this, I believe. Oh shoot, I can't remember. Maybe it was a Vanity Fair article. I can't really remember what it
I think it was
was.
right around the actual official of the merger. Like there was a piece out. I think
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about with Zaslav. There was I only remember it because there was a ridiculous photo of him. Just I don't know. Just thought it looked stupid.
but the thing is, of course, everybody knows Alan Horn was the individual who used to work at WB. They basically let him go just because they wanted, hey, go ahead and go retire. You've done your work. We've made billions of dollars. You take credit for that.
Well, I read a good article today, and I don't know if it was that like handshake.
It
It was more Game
no,
of Thrones,
yeah,
and
but
him and
that's
Tsujihara was
essentially
Littlefinger,
yeah,
and
yeah,
essentially, yeah,
and that's the thing, right? I know that Snell kind of pictured it as more of like a, hey, you're kind of old school. We need the new school and
yeah,
things like that. Uh, but of course, we had the good Bob over at Disney pick him up and make billions of dollars over at Disney. And Zaslav saw that when he came into WB and was like, what the hell is going on with you guys? Let's bring him back. And he's here in a consulting role. And here's what I think is actually going to be happening. I picture this as literally a consulting blueprint role. I think what he's going to do is he's going to go ahead and partner with Zaslav. He's going to partner with Jim Lee. And he's going to I think Alan Horn will be the one to hand select whoever is going to be running DC at WB. Whether it be an official DC Studios or a new name or whatever, I truly think Alan Horn is going to be the one that says, "Hey, Zaslav, that's the guy you need." But I legitimately think Alan Horn is going to write out the next 3-year plan for WB, not just DC, but for WB, ride out the first year and a half, maybe 2 years, and then say sayonara, take his big fat check, and then retire again. He is getting up there. He's almost 80 years old. I think he's like 78 or 79. I will say this. I can't necessarily say that he wouldn't want to work until he dies, but with how much money he has made in life, I think accepting a big fat check is nice, but I think that he would want to just like relax a little bit.
It's weird. You think that, especially with, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure people like that want to stop working until that's it, or really close to that. And to be honest with you, Clay, I feel like he could be brought on. A, a lot of what you're saying makes sense, especially helping like find the DC film studio him, because he did not want the job. That's something he didn't want. So
Yeah.
that would put to your not wanting to be here line. But I also want to say Marvel, Disney let him go. You had him for 10 years, and they seem like they're smart enough to have people study under him and try and learn what he knows and the way he does things. Like they don't seem to be the people that push somebody out. And I was reading a lot of quotes from directors, including uh, Chris Nolan, Ben Affleck, and Todd Phillips about Alan Horn, and it was a lot of like the reason that Warner Brothers was called a director-driven studio was a lot. It was attributed to him and the
Yeah.
way he handled people in the projects. Like some people were scared when they were coming in to talk, but they were thinking, "Oh my god!" And he was just so easy to pitch things to. And I gotta say, I'm at ease with that, and I think he will help find the person. I don't know if it'll be as easy as that, and I also think you're right about WB. I don't think DC is his uh, only thing in mind. I think the animation studio is going to be a thing that he's going to look at, especially we'll talk about League of Super Pets later, but that didn't perform up to expectations. So with the Pixar money machine that is, I'm sure that they're going to look to try and figure out a way, because he was quite integral in making that a huge success in the 2000s. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm excited about this, and I think it could go a long way. It's rather funny how this dropped a couple hours before the news dropped that we're going to talk about after this topic. People were sharing. I saw pictures of Alan Horn and Ben Affleck just waving to the crowd. I was like,
V-
wait, no, Ben Affleck looks like 10 years younger there. I got you
well,
guys.
there is some. I think there is connective tissue there, and I definitely want to talk about it. And I mean, other than the fact that Alan Horn is there, there's not really much to say, other than like what we've already talked about. So you want to go ahead and give everybody the news as of what exactly happened? I think this was what, Wednesday, Thursday that this happened. Well, actually, no, it happened. I think it was a Wednesday that it happened because I
I think it was.
recorded.
It was. I recorded as well. It was Thursday. It was Marvel Alliance Day. I recorded with Joe
That's what it was
for
because you made
Harley
the
Quinn.
joke. You made the joke. Oh, look what drops on right
Right
before
before
Marvel
Marvel
Alliance.
Alliance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listeners, Batfleck is back, and Ben Affleck is going to be in Aquaman 2. And how do we know this, Clay? Who broke this story? What integral scooper got the scoop on this?
Jason Momoa.
Yeah.
He is the ultimate scooper. Now the thing is, what a lot of people aren't realizing is what happened literally, and the way that Jason Momoa posted it, he did the two pictures with Ben Affleck and then he did the video, when I think what should have happened was he should have done the video first and then the two pictures to share the story in context. But you look at the two pictures on Instagram and then you move to the video, and it literally opens up with Jason Momoa saying, "Oh, you fuckers." And he's talking to a tour. It's
Yeah.
a long, elongated, like golf cart thing. I don't know the proper word for it. But the WB lots are doing tours and everything.
They always do.
And and they're on set of Aquaman 2, where Jason Momoa and Ben Affleck had just walked out of. And Jason Momoa is talking to this giant tour, and he's like, oh, I apologize because he cursed or whatever. He's like, it was supposed to be secret. It was supposed to be secret. And you see him laughing it off, walking into this trailer that says BA. They were going so far as to say, hey, like nobody will ever know who this is.
Black
Uh,
Adam.
and so when he looks inside with his phone, it looks like Ben is on the phone with somebody. So he's like, oh, sorry, man. And then he walks out. But then you look back at the pictures. We saw the pictures first before we actually saw the Instagram post. That was the big thing that was on Twitter.
Yeah.
And I was like, that can't be like anytime recently because like there's no way in hell Ben looks that good.
You're like,
I
he's
even
wearing the BVS stuff.
yeah,
That's what I
like
was thinking myself.
my comments were unless hair and makeup is like doing miracles, there's no way that is Ben Affleck because just like right before San Diego Comic-Con or even the weekend of San Diego Comic-Con,
The weekend of.
J-Lo and him were on a boat like in Paris. Like
Come on, let's say on a yacht, and Ben Affleck was kicked back,
he was kicked
snoring,
back. He
snoring.
mouth open, everything. This man is like filled with memes, and I
Question:
absolutely
has
love
to
it.
be a drone they use to get that footage, right?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
100%. 100%.
Part of me thought for a second like they were on balloons or on a little
it,
propeller thing. Go.
but it like he had, of course, his short hair and his scruffy look. And so when you look at him in these pictures, you're like, that can't be him right now. And in fact, it was. Of course, he has the wig on for the Bruce Wayne hair. You even see the calendar in the back showing the dates for the reshoots that are going on. Uh, and I believe it was Casey Walsh that pointed something out in the very back with that calendar on the 29th, which was just a few days ago. They were filming a Black Manta attack that Mira was going to be a part of. I'm going to go ahead and call it. Mira's dying in this movie. And I think so much so that it's going to be off screen. I'm going to go ahead and call it that. Like she is like, you'll probably see Amber Heard on screen saying, hey, I'm going, or you'll hear her voice on a comm or something, but then you won't see her die. I am
You're
like
basically
almost
describing to me kind of like Joey Tribbiani's death in Friends when he was on the soap. Like he died off in the elevator,
Yes.
went down. He's like,
Yes.
that's basically what you're describing there.
It's funny. It's funny that you say that because the lot that they're using to film the reshoots is the old Friends lot.
Oh,
So
okay.
that was the whole thing with Jason Momoa turning around to talk to one of his bodyguards or associates or whatever. The Friends logo was there.
Okay. Yeah, I do remember
So
that now. Yeah.
so I thought that was funny. But this started to build up a whole bunch of speculation. What does this mean? What is going on?
Grace Randolph had a
We
meltdown.
yeah, we had discussions on and off air about this possibility that Batman or Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne would show up in Aquaman 2. There was rumors about this. What
Just
exactly does it
test
mean?
screenings, people said that he was in, and I'm not going to dismiss all test screenings because someone like saw a test screening of Zack Snyder's Justice League when before the theatrical cut and said stuff like Dark Side was cut, and people scoffed at that.
Yeah.
And yeah,
And
not so much.
so I will go ahead and say this now. Uh we're gonna go ahead and there's some other topics that we want to talk about tonight that do warrant a spoiler warning. So this is going to be a spoiler-ish
Potential, maybe
conversation.
not. We're not sure.
Yeah, we're not entirely sure. And again, take everything with a grain of salt because these movies are coming out next year. There's plenty of time to change things up.
Like Ben Affleck being in Aquaman 2.
Exactly. So we are hearing, or what we heard beforehand was Michael Keaton was going to be showing up in a post-credit scene. That was the big thing. We made the assumption because I remember us having the conversation here on the live that maybe Aquaman was happening concurrently with the Flash timeline wise. So that way, at the end of the Flash, the end of Aquaman 2 would take up about the same time. And we assumed just because we always talk about how the Flash is going to be a reboot, we're probably going to say goodbye to Ben and see Michael Keaton, and then Michael Keaton will confront Jason Momoa. That's apparently not what we were getting. Apparently, grain of salt here. It is a part of the plot in Aquaman that something or someone is poisoning the Atlanteans. We're not entirely sure how that is going to be going about, uh, but Jason Momoa, with his resources of course, Atlantis, and of course, the richest person in the DC universe, Bruce Wayne, he decides to go to Bruce Wayne in order to get some assistance. The fact that Michael Keaton was possibly there to confront Jason Momoa, possibly in the middle of the movie, it just wouldn't make sense. And that tells me that at some point in this filming, and the higher ups were basically saying, "Hey, let's see if it'll work if we just outright replace Ben." At one point,
See, I'm hearing that this was just a post-credit scene. That this isn't in the middle of the movie or things like that. I just heard that it was a post-credit scene, and it was confusing to people when it was Keaton because this came before the Flash, so they switched it to Ben to make sense. That's what I'm hearing is just a help it make sense for when Keaton transitions. But then I read an article today about Keaton saying some of the reasons why he wanted to be Batman, and part of it he said, "I want to drop in and see what I can do and like be done with it." That's essentially what it kind of implied to me.
and
Which
and you sent me this via our DC Alliance chat, and I'm not entirely sure if that's what it means either. Because you assumed, oh, dropping in means he will eventually be plucked out. Um, it could also mean, hey, let's drop him in there and see what happens, which means there's no plans to take him out. But again, this all depends on what the future of the DC EU looks like. We keep hearing these rumors about a Crisis live action, and when I say Crisis live action, I mean on the big screen, because I do understand CW did it first, yes. Um, but I don't know. I would. He also made the comments of like, "Oh, my Batman has not changed at all," which like that just means he's still a murderous psychopath when he comes into Batgirl, which I don't think a lot of people will love, but
part of
we'll
me is
see.
thinking that maybe they both Batgirl can exist in the Earth that Keaton is a part of. I don't think Keaton's Earth is the same Earth that Sasakai Supergirl's on. I could be
No,
wrong.
I don't believe so either, because there is some more news. But I mean, as far as this whole Ben Affleck coming back, we will talk about more of the other news right
In a
after
little bit.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Ben Affleck coming back, this is getting a lot of people worked up, because although I hate her guts, Randolph kind of made sense with something a little bit. But I don't see it this way, because I don't really care about the Snyder Cult anymore. It's more along the lines of like, oh, this gives vindication for the Snyder people, and they'll just keep yabbering their mouths off and blah 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 blah. And in my mind, it's like, no, Ben Affleck has been the definitive Batman in this universe. So changing him, or acting as though he never existed and only Keaton ever existed, wouldn't make sense, because we've
No, you
all
got.
seen BVS, we've all seen Zack Snyder's Justice League,
We've all
we've
seen the
all seen
Shazam two
Suicide Squad.
Shazam
Yeah,
2 trailer.
yeah. Like he is too defined in this universe to just throw somebody else in without explanation. And I think that is the main point. If you want to replace Ben after the Flash, that is totally fine, because there is a big possibility that Flash could be a giant reboot to the franchise. But before then, it just wouldn't make sense. So
Also,
that's what I have
not
to say to
quick
it.
that he has married J Lo, and they have. I think they have $1 billion home that they purchased. So them might need them Batman bucks, Clay. Might
You
need a
see,
few of them
you see,
Batman bucks.
everybody is saying like, "Oh, Ben really needs the money and
No,
whatnot,"
he
but
doesn't need the money. I'm just
he
saying this
doesn't
is
need the money in my eyes. But also, J-Lo is J-Lo. I don't think she needs the money
Oh
either.
God, no! I think she's the more
The money
like,
maker in
yeah,
here.
if you compare to. But I also think they wouldn't turn away some quick Batman bucks. Like he's getting a pretty penny just to guest star as Bruce Wayne. Like
Well,
he's like, I don't even have to train for this. Are you kidding me? Like I don't have to wear the suit. Sold.
and that's the other thing, okay? So everybody started memeing at the fact that is he in? Is he out? Is he in? Is he out? You know, using the boys meme of the Deep walking on stage or whatever. Oh, Ben Affleck, I will never play Batman again. The next time WB wants him back, and the Deep walking on
The
stage.
best one I saw was Ben Affleck. WB asked Ben Affleck to finally officially sign a contract to give up the Batman role, and then it shows the Wolf of Wall Street. I'm not fucking leaving. I'm not going anywhere. I cried. It was that funny.
Oh man. But here's the thing though. And guys, I'll be completely honest. This is not going to be a negative Clay episode. Um I love Ben Affleck as the Batman. I'm not going to get my hopes up, but for the time being, I'm enjoying the ride. And so I want to ask you this. Do you think it is realistic? And I think it was Snell that brought this type of role for Ben as Batman up in his own podcast. But do you think Ben would be a-okay with being Iron Man a la Civil War forward?
I think
Meaning he
yes.
will only be in team up movies. Um, he will most likely only be doing ADR because Iron Man 3 didn't come out until Iron Man 3 came out before Civil War. Like, and after that, he was only in team ups and then cameoed in solo movies. So at this point, if he does that, he only needs to do like maybe 3 days of shooting, doesn't need to do too much workout. If he's
Is
ever in the Batman suit, it'll be a body double, things like that. So,
question?
yeah,
Is
go
he
ahead.
still married to J Lo in this scenario?
Yes, of course. That's what I'm
Okay,
saying.
then I think there's a lot stronger chance because I think he's going to have to stay in relative like half decent shape anyway because he's married to J Lo.
Well, I did you hear? So totally off topic, but still in the same realm. Apparently, J Lo is wanting him to remove that giant tattoo on his back.
I'm not surprised. It did look ridiculous. It will be quite painful. Actually, I'm sure there's some sort of like super rich way to remove it that's like super expensive, but not
Well,
nearly as
I just see
painful as
on
mine.
TikTok, I see all those like laser remover things, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that doesn't look very painful. But you always hear the doctors right before they say it say, okay, take a deep breath, and then they do it. So I don't know how painful it is. But yeah, like I think honestly, if they just keep throwing money at Ben to say, hey, you're only gonna come back for like a total of 6 days, but that 6 days will be stretched across 4 months. So you'll do 3 days, 1 month, and then you'll do another 3 days when we are about to finish filming. Like something like that,
I think it all depends on their idea because he did mention that the Flash was a story that like actually got him, and he really enjoyed his Batman work in that. So I feel like here is just as much a favor for Jason Momoa, who like that cast was extremely close. A part of it is what they went through filming the actual
Yeah.
movie, but they are extremely close. They're not. It's not fake. So I could see him doing this, and you're getting paid as well, and you're going with Jason Momoa. So I feel like it's. I don't want to get ahead of myself, Clay. You know me; I'm the most optimistic. I will fly
Yes.
in the clouds, in the skies of optimism
Well,
anytime.
well, I will say this: leave it to DC fashion for them to not have a clue how to bring Superman back, but 100% be able to bring Batman
We
back.
got like 75 Batmans going on. If Keaton comes, we'll have four
But
technically at the same time.
I did hear news on possibly a new Superman. Are you ready for this? I'm going to share my screen. I found our new Superman. I heard that Grant
Oh my
Gustin
god!
is
There's
going to
okay.
be looking for a role here. Guys,
That's a
go
little bit
check
more
out.
believable than him taking over for. Uh, Although I can't rule anything out. We got a new regime, so I'm going to be positive about that. But Clay, I'm excited. It's funny. A couple years ago, I was never going to see anything of it. It was dead. I got a 4-hour movie. I've got an appearance here. Going to get another appearance in another movie. This man is in Shazam trailers, being showcased and saying he's cool. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But I would love. I'd trade all this in a heartbeat for just more Henry Cavill as Superman, or even just Superman on the big screen to begin with a head and a face and talking and not a weird mouth. And yeah, so work on Superman, but I'm really happy with what else is going on here. And Alan Horn, I think this doesn't hurt
Oh
for
well,
hearing Ben
that
Affleck.
was
Yeah,
exactly. So that was the other connective tissue that I was talking about. There is a possibility that within the last few months that Ben Affleck heard that there may be a chance that Alan Horn is coming back. I think
they
that
probably
might also,
discussed it, Clay.
yeah,
I'd
I
say they
think that
even
is a
discussed it.
possibility as of why Ben is able to want to even play ball.
Yeah.
Is okay, Alan Horn is going to be more involved in WB's work ethic, then yeah, let's do it.
He's not going to be. So you're not going to have what happened because all the reports, like I can't actively corroborate it, but all the reports say, like that I've read, said that Ben Affleck like wanted everyone to walk off set.
Yeah.
So like after you go through something like that, it's pretty crappy, and you can see why you'd want to step away. But money talks, and good people too. So we'll see what happens there, Clay. I want to get into more so the Flash stuff, the rumor stuff that came from the Flash test screening, and this is the major thing that Clay said about the spoiler warning, listeners. So if you don't want to potentially be spoiled for the Flash movie, you skip ahead. What 8 minutes, 10 minutes? Skip ahead 10 minutes.
Yeah. Go ahead and just skip 10 minutes. We'll talk about it real quick and then we'll move on with some other news topics.
Okay, Clay. So I have the list of things that this person said who was at the screening, and I'm just going to read them off, and we'll stop and discuss whenever you want to. It's action packed, which is something we both pretty much assumed.
Yeah, and we will go ahead and be upfront about this. We talked between ourselves and Snell and other people. I actually joined in on the conversation at Reddit about this as well, so I know a little bit about the spoiler stuff that I'm hoping that majority, if not all of this, I will forget by June. Um, but yeah, take everything with a grain of salt because, like we said, this is a screening that did happen.
Well,
I
some was even
believe,
unfinished was the second point here. So, like
yes.
you said, take it with a grain of salt.
I think this did happen Thursday as well. So let's go ahead and dig through some of these things.
So,
Do you want to go ahead and read it? Yeah.
okay, as Ezra is great as the Flash, and also the variants they play. So I noticed that the variants multiple. So how many Ezra Millers are we going to see? I think that might make me think that even the other Flash that we've seen in promotional footage, that's not the evil Flash. There'll be a third variant that comes out to be the evil one.
Okay.
So because they said variants, so that's why it's making me think that.
Okay. I can see that. I can see that. Yeah.
One of the best scenes is when Zod and Supergirl fight. It's reminiscent of Man of Steel. Uh, Time travel is well used. That gives no indication. That is not a spoiler at all. That's just a to say that they use time travel well, but that's not. We know they're going to use time travel because they're going through multiverses.
They have confirmed. Well, I say confirmed, but still a screening, so grain of salt, of course. But there was something in these talks of what we've heard from the screener that did confirm something that we had already heard before about previous scenes that have taken place in the DCEU and how they are going to be changed because of the Flash. Um, and I kind of rolled my eye at it, but it seemed a little bit inevitable, you know?
Yeah, it could very well be. I don't know what they'll change. I don't like. Maybe we'll see a completely new Superman, or maybe we'll actually see Henry Cavill. I don't know. I have so many questions about this. The next thing they say here is Keaton has a lot of one-liners that are callbacks to his movies. So I'm a little skeptical about that. I don't know if that where Keaton in the interview has said it was very well written. I don't think Keaton thinks one-liners are very like a lot of one-liners is having a part very well written. So I kind of push back on that one a little bit, Clay.
Well, along with the one-liners, one of the bullet points here is that there's a lot of comedy, specifically a lot of sex jokes
Yeah.
that I'm not really looking forward to.
I don't see that be. I can see them already hiring 4 or 5 people to scrub all the sex jokes out of the film, considering some of the stuff that you know is floating around about the movie, or well, the people, one of the persons in the movie. I feel like they may
True.
scrub some of that. So, what this is a screening, so maybe they took these notes and said, "Yeah, we got to get rid of that." Um, he said it doesn't. It's not overused. No, at times it's overused, but it doesn't take away from the film. The heart of the story is Barry Allen as the Flash. As much of the time travel and multiverse stuff there is, the story stays centered on Barry Allen, which I'm thankful for. And I'm still a little skeptical, but I think Muschietti is able to do that with how he navigated the many people in it, for example. Um, and something very interesting is I was told the movie retcons the DCU a bit. There's a scene flashback where Barry is saving people during the event of Man of Steel, the
Yeah,
Black
and that's what I was
Zero
talking
Hour.
about.
Yeah, and has his powers during that time. That's not. We don't know when he gets his powers from BVS, so that's not a thing. Like that's not retconning anything. He could have very well gotten those powers
Well,
back then.
you need to understand also in the timeline of the DCEU, we see Man of Steel, and
And
then
then
we see BVS was how much longer? Like how
BVS
timeline?
was BVS happened like within within the same year. Two Funkles just fell on the floor, sugar shacks.
Nice.
Yeah, but yeah, within the same year, I think it was like 8 months or something. It was like Mankind is introduced to Superman, and Bruce was there, and then we go into like the
I
movie
actually
from
think it
that.
was a year later.
Yeah,
But so even that, it does seem plausible because Lex has the footage of Barry in the convenience store using his powers.
yeah.
Whether that be, controlled or uncontrolled, whatever, it doesn't hurt the continuity of Barry Allen as a character.
Not at all, because seeing Superman definitely inspired him to look into these supernatural beings. So it would stand to reason that he would find out about Barry after Man of Steel, but before BVS. But still, Barry had the accident had to happen, and Barry had to become the Flash. So that could have happened a year before Man of Steel. We don't know, or that could have happened a month. He could have woken up during the events of Black Zero. Oh, I can't Black Zero or Zero Black. I can't remember what it's called now.
Yeah.
Black Zero, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another thing that interests me. I would love to see him. I know some people were complaining about that, but I think that would be pretty cool. And this is a guy who got the 3 of Zack Snyder's DC movies as his top movies. I don't care about the retcons as long as they make sense to me. And Zod only really interacts with Supergirl, which would make sense. Uh, Although I would like to see him interact with Flash a little bit. Cinematography wise, the film looks amazing. Wonder Woman still appears at the beginning. There is no Martian Manhunter, and Reeves Superman and Linda Carter's Wonder Woman cameo during the Flash travel scene. And we talked about that in our DCA chat, and I instantly shared with you guys the Flash TV show when he travels to Earth 2 for the first time. We
Yeah.
get some bubbles. It reminded me of also playing Turtles in Time, the Flash thing did. When you're going through, you
Yes.
see the bubbles. That's what that was like to me. And I
It's
feel like
gonna be
we
a
have
more
way
it's
better,
gonna be a bigger
better.
spectacle, like better CGI, all of that, and it's gonna be that. Now, again, grain of salt here, but there is also a blink and you miss it apparently moment where during that scene where you see the OG Wonder Woman, you see Christopher Reeves, you will also be seeing Adam West,
Someone said they saw
Pattinson.
Pattinson, and someone said they thought they saw Clooney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, I think there's going to be a lot of people in that one scene. I'm going to go ahead and so we're hearing the trilogy, the Trinity. We're hearing the Trinity, Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman. I'm going to go ahead and call out. These are my early predictions. So hashtag Clay told you so in a year. I'm going to go ahead and call. You're going to see the OG Shazam from the TV series. I think you will see. Uh, what are some other live action? Oh, you know what? I gotta go ahead. I'm gonna call it. I don't know how true this is gonna be. I'm gonna say the OG Justice League pilot.
No, you're going too far down the
No, no,
rabbit
no,
hole.
no,
There,
no,
we're going
no,
to thing
no.
that general audience needs to know, not the
Oh no,
unaired pilots that no one ever heard about.
I'm gonna go ahead and throw at least one cameo of one of those characters in there. So I'm gonna throw those two. I'm gonna say Shazam and that. Anything else I haven't really paid attention to or seen. I'm not gonna say Smallville. I just don't think that is really a big thing. I know it played a really big part in DC's fandom whenever it comes to live action. I don't see it happening. Uh,
What was that second prediction again?
the Justice League
Yeah. Wait. So you think that that unaired Justice League pilot?
has a better chance than Smallville.
Yeah.
I think so.
Oh my God. You
I
just
think
said
so.
that. You also
And
said that Smallville didn't make as much of an impact on
no,
DC as
no, no,
that.
no. I said I know it did make a big
Okay,
impact with
sorry. That's
DC
why I
fans
screwed up
and the
my face.
fandom.
That's why I
No,
screwed
no,
up my
but
face.
I think the reasoning why is because of Crisis on CW.
Ooh, okay.
I think that is the reason why.
Yeah.
Um, although we do know that they had that scene together was Ezra and Grant. That's another rumor. There's a rumor that Grant's scene has been cut, and he wasn't in the movie. Um, and that's kind of the reason why I don't think that they're gonna do it, because I think they're wanting to separate themselves from the CW, so that way they can make, as I've always predicted, ever since we heard that these things were getting finalized and shows were being canceled. I do think that they're wanting to solidify their own timeline with their own shows eventually. So
Well,
they
they see
want
how
to separate themselves
successful
from the
the
CW.
MCU is on on Disney Plus, and they're like, why can't we have that on with DC and our streaming service?
Yeah,
And they got a taste of it with Peacemaker, so you're like, because we're seeing the Peacemaker intro dances everywhere still,
yeah.
so it is a popular show. So I I hope I'm excited. I'm
So,
excited to see
so
the
two
future.
more things that I want to bring up, just because we did talk about Ben Affleck. There are, and I know we're technically up on that 10 minutes. Just jump another minute for these last two comments. Uh, Apparently, Keaton and Batfleck do not interact whatsoever. This does put a little bit of a damper on everybody's prediction of like, oh, we're gonna get a No Way Home moment, and like they're gonna be awesome together. I don't think that's gonna happen.
I wouldn't expect that anyway from Batman's. Like, I wouldn't
Well,
expect the
I think
awesomeness I wouldn't expect the awesomeness that I got from the Spider-Man of like, we're so cool. I expect all three Batman to
well,
be brooding in their separate corners and not saying
that's what
anything.
that's what Snell and everybody was saying at
Yeah.
Geekverse, and the fact that like, man, it would just be like none of the Batmen would like trust each other, and like they would all be crying about the pearls and all of these
Do,
different things.
do you have a
Crime
butler?
Alley.
Do you have a butler as well? Is your butler named Alfred? How do you make your grappling gun?
and and so I don't expect there to be a No Way Home moment with Batman. I would expect that moment to come from a Flash or a Superman or
Yeah.
something like that. Um, but
Like we got with Crisis with Grant and Ezra. That was a kind of like a, oh my god, kind of they didn't have enough time, but they're still in the oh my god, we're so cool. That moment worked for them.
yeah,
Yeah.
and the last comment being, um, I was on Reddit talking to the people that had allegedly seen the screener, um, and they were bringing up Affleck again, and they were talking about, here's the exact quote. He says Affleck's scenes were few but great. He had a nice action scene at the beginning and got a nice after credit scene with Barry. This had a lot of people very confused as of our predictions of where Ben was going with the DCEU, and the questions, and everybody like really getting excited because of this small piece of information. People were like, wait, at the end, doesn't that cutscene take place in the nightmare, scenes and all of that? And he says, no, it takes place in an updated main DCEU present.
Which
Uh, like what, you know? So that, I think that is what is getting a lot of people excited for the possibility of Ben Affleck going into that Iron Man role of, hey, I'm going to be in team ups. I'm going to be, possibly recruiting people at the end of their own solo movies, whatever. But yeah, we will see how it goes. I, guys, am feeling a lot more hopeful with the inclusion of Alan Horn. I think that Alan Horn will make a good blueprint for WB with all of their movies moving forward. As far as when that will take place, I was being a little dramatic with the guys in the GUA about, oh, we'll never get like a 15 movie slate at a San Diego Comic Con for the DCEU. I still don't think we will, but I will go ahead and say I think that we will get a
Can you just say in the
new.
next 20 years from now on?
I think we will get a new, updated, nice, like, I hate saying this phrase, a Marvelization slate for the DCEU in 4 years.
Ooh, look at okay. And my
Three
listeners,
3 to 4 years.
if you're watching live, you'll see the overlay of my attitude towards all this now. So if you're not looking, if you're not watching, it's the Michael Scott meme of "I'm ready to get hurt again." So I, who knows? I'm a little bit more hopeful, a little bit more optimistic. I didn't, I was skeptical how this was going to work. Who knows, Clay? But I'm excited for all this buzz, and I can't wait to see these films. Starting with Black Adam in October, and we have 4 films.
I could take a break there. I don't need to see Black Adam.
So let's get into the little bit of news we have left, Clay, before we talk about the Smallville episode. We watched the first 16 minutes of Gotham Knights gameplay footage finally. Clay, what do you think about that?
Well, I want to go ahead and correct you there. It's technically not the first 16 minutes.
Yeah.
They said in the video that the not the epilogue, what is it? The intro of this movie, the prologue to this movie is still wanting to be secret for
Yeah.
the fans of the video game. So it was the first time you're able to choose a character and then move forward. This video
Yeah.
did take place with choosing Batgirl because we have not seen a lot of her gameplay. So there's a few things that I took note of. Uh, for me, there was a scene where all 4 of these characters were talking together, and I could not get away from staring at how bad the motion was for Batgirl's hair. I don't know why. It just like one of those very small pet peeves. Again, at the bottom of the screen, it did say not final footage or whatever. So there's still something that they're
They could
working
be
on.
working on, yeah.
And for me, I don't know if you have played through all of the Arkham games or not. I'm sure you have with that face.
Yeah.
But with me playing these Arkham games, I'm always like crouching or like I'm looking around my surroundings. I think this took me a little bit out of this particular showing of gameplay footage because it was clearly somebody who has played the game before. Batgirl was like just strutting nonchalantly through crime scenes and stuff, and it didn't look quote unquote realistic to the DC universe and how Batgirl would be walking around and stuff. So that bothered me a little bit. Um, but when you get down to the investigation stuff, I do like the use of quote unquote detective vision and finding
Yes.
out puzzles. There's a big point where Batgirl is trying to find a code to open a secret door. I really enjoyed that because it wasn't as easy as just like finding a keypad and then doing stuff. You had to look at like 4 or 5 different things to add those numbers together and then find the code. I really enjoyed that. There was some name drops in this footage as well. I'm gonna keep those under lock and key so that way people can enjoy the game. But yeah, I there was just like some of those weird things. One thing that I've never really liked about the Arkham games was like the random auto lock, which is like your screen does not auto lock to a character, but your character auto locks to random characters around you. So even if it's behind you and you can't see them, they're off screen.
Can you
Your
turn that
character,
off, I wonder?
I think you might, because it again the way these characters are like, I guess, programmed, they walk really weird even in combat. So the only way to make it look realistic in this setting of the DC universe and Gotham and whatnot, you always have to kind of keep throwing batarangs or throwing punches and stuff. But the flips and kicks and all of that looked really, really fun. I think it looked really good. Uh, I am kind of disappointed. Me and my co-host for Batman News Weekly, they have already chosen Batgirl as their main character. I'm of course I already chose Nightwing before I saw the Fortnite glider and all of that stuff. Uh, I I'm going to enjoy this, but I'm still a little hesitant on the combat system. I'm gonna have to really play through it to see if I enjoy it. Because one of my biggest fears is this game turning out to be what Avengers was for the Xbox and
Ooh.
PlayStation. Uh, which I think the guys over at Geekverse kind of are in the fear of that as well, because there was a lot of that first gameplay footage with Jason and Nightwing, Red Hood and Nightwing, that kind of felt the same as that. So,
You're not getting this from me, listeners. You're getting total optimism because I was all in. I haven't played an Arkham game in so long, and felt like an Arkham game through and through. Even the grappling noise was exactly like the Arkham games. I
yes,
love that
I
Batgirl had a
did love the
projectile.
sound design of this. I did.
Batgirl had a projectile that was his own thing that you could do, was throw the projectile and then fight, like her nightstick type thing. And I did enjoy the silent takedowns. A lot of them were using that nightstick. Um, Also, when we saw that big bruiser come out, I felt like it was going to take Batgirl forever, but all you needed to do was a nice dodge and a good heavy shot, and you could get a combo in, which I enjoy that. I don't need not even the mid level, the boss for this side mission where I need to silently take down these people. I don't need that boss to be like crazy, crazy to the point where he's almost killing me. Like, save that for
Yeah,
the real
this kind of
bosses.
gave me the same vibes as if you remember in the first Arkham game, when you fight Bane for the first time, everything was kind of like going a little crazy. He was
Yeah,
charging at you, all of that stuff. It kind of gave me that same vibe, but of course, this guy is not that big.
no.
Um, but again, I think you will get a completely different feel every single character that you play. So I'm really interested to see how things change between each character.
Same. And one thing I did enjoy about Batgirl was the way that she slid on her knees and one knee to continue her combos, like using her suit as basically a slip and slide glide to
There was a
glide
lot of
along.
fluidity in this
Yes,
in these scenes, which I really enjoyed.
it looked very good, but also this is what they picked for the to show us. So obviously this is the best they had to offer, of course, without spoiling anything.
Yeah.
And I did enjoy the various members of the Bat family communicating with her, not just one, various ones. And at the start, you said I wasn't focused on Batgirl's hair. I was just focused on, holy crap, this is awesome. Like, they're having a basic conversation, trying to figure out how to delegate the work. And you can see they're totally lost of who's going to run the show with Batman being gone. So
Yeah, and I will say this, I said I wasn't gonna name the person that they name dropped, I'm still not, but it is a pretty big character in the Batman mythos,
I thought you would
and
like that. I thought you would like that.
well, I did like that, but was odd to me was that all 4 of these characters are prominently known enough to have their own costumes and everything and character development, but they didn't know who that character was.
Well, it seems like that character has only come onto the scene a little bit before Batman dies. I'm doing X. I don't think he's going to be dead by the end of the movie, but uh, that I think that's what happened, because we did get a little thing of Jason Todd coming in and said, like, Batman's been investigating him the last 6 months,
Yeah.
and he's gotten it. So I feel like he's just come onto the scene and
Again, guys,
not
this is not a
established that Batman.
continuation of Arkham,
Yeah.
so, like, if this is a new universe or whatever you wanna call it, so it makes sense.
And I just still am happy they're using the Arkham engine, because if you want to tell some stories, Arkham told a pretty long saga. So to get in there and tell some stories within that is tough. So I'm glad they're going out on their own play. And I'm all in for it. I'm just gonna have to, I guess, pick up bottles and cans to fund my PlayStation 5, because I'm gonna play it on the PlayStation 4.
Oh, yeah, they canceled
Yeah.
their
Thank you
old
guys,
console.
but it looked amazing. So I'm okay with that. I'll suffer the bullet. So
Now,
you go.
the other news actually, I did not see this article.
Yes.
David Sandberg, speaks about Shazam versus Black Adam. What was all that about?
He was not positive at all. He says there hasn't been a conversation about that. I know at the moment that Black Adam is sort of its thing and Shazam is its thing. Then we'll see where it all goes in the future, but I haven't really been a part of any conversations like that. And then he also says, first we looked at following the comic book closer to the New 52 version because there were new issues of that. It felt like something we want to do more of our own world because comic book goes in the way of Fantasyland and stuff like that. And essentially, he basically said that Shazam is his own thing and Black Adam is his own thing, Clay, which uh, just eternally frustrates me because those two characters should be interacting and going together. You don't have to have Shazam kill Black Adam, but you can have him beat him and send him to the Suicide Squad where eventually he escapes. Like you could do something like that. You don't have to Soy Rock. Like you don't have to be like, oh, you're dead if you're a villain.
Let me play devil's advocate for the first time between us both.
Ooh.
And I know this is not the case, but let me again just play devil's advocate. What if they're not connected now because they want the reboot to be the connection?
Well, that could
Uh,
be it.
Now, of course, I still think because we had, if you want to hear the full discussion, go to our last episode about San Diego Comic Con. But I still think that The Rock doesn't want to share the limelight as the top build uh, movie actor in these movies. So I think that his stuff will be separate from everything else. But who knows?
I don't know about that because, like I said to you when we talked last week, he's coming from the wrestling world where, yes, you got to be a little bit cutthroat, but you also got to build up. You need somebody alongside of you that can help bring in the money as well. And I feel like
Yeah.
he knows that, and he's kind of done some favors for some people that it didn't benefit him in popularity or extra, and just gave up for people. So I but it could be like it because he does have stuff in the contract. That Fast and the Furious contract always gets me like nervous, where he wasn't allowed to basically be beaten up for very long, and it was basically had to be a draw with Vin Diesel. Which I'm
Yeah.
not about that, especially when you're becoming a anti-villain like that. Also, you can just say that you're as strong as Superman all you want. Like I know that it's not exactly as cut and dry as you're saying. They're the same strength and have all the same abilities, except Shazam, Black Adam has magic, and Superman is vulnerable to that. No, he's vulnerable to kryptonite. It's a thing that is his most vulnerable.
He
Magic damages him, but it doesn't
yes.
like it's not kryptonite. Like Rock's like basically out here saying he's shooting kryptonite beams at just Superman. You don't need Black Adam is strong enough as a character. You don't need to make me think that he's exactly as physically strong as Superman.
Yeah.
Like you just calm down a little tiny bit with that.
I mean, but it's The Rock though. He needs to make himself sound like he's the best of everything, unfortunately.
Yeah, 98%. I'll never stop saying that for his that random time he said the trailer got 98%, and it didn't. What 98% of what, Rock? Uh, I'm still
All right,
excited for
well,
the movie.
let's talk about his biggest box office fail here. Um Maybe it's not The Rock, maybe it's Kevin Hart. I think it might be Kevin Hart's. But in all seriousness,
It could be
uh
children's movies
and,
entirely. Check out Travis Told You So on the Geekverse podcast network. He goes live. He went live today, and he talked about this very thing about the lower number.
yeah, and it really opened my eyes in the sense of these family movies and everything else. We were both in there in the chat, popping off in that chat talking about some of these budgets. DC Super Pets box office, they only got 23 million opening weekend. They were aiming for 25, so they were off by 2 million. Um, so as far as these projections, doesn't look that bad. Um, I was, in that chat with Snell and looking at some of the other family movies that have come out this year. And really, the only one that was successful was Minions. And it's
Yeah,
crazy because Minions became a meme. And like this whole fad about like, oh, you need to have a business suit and go watch the movie. And like there was like droves of like teenagers and young adults were going into Minions with these business suits, so much so that like theaters had to like tell people, hey, you cannot come in a business suit to watch this movie, which is a really weird rule. Um, But it says here DC League of Super Pets struggled to sell tickets overseas against Minions: The Rise of Gru, another family-friendly offering that competing for attention at the international box office. The Warner Brothers animated adventure about the animated compatriots of Superman and the Justice League has collected a lackluster 18.4 million from 63 foreign markets. Despite most of these positive reviews, DC Super Pets had a harder time breaking out because The Rise of Gru has remained the de facto choice internationally for parents with young kids, although Minions opened in theaters 5 weeks ago. The animated sequel beat newcomer DC Super Pets on international charts with 35.3 million from 79 different territories.
So
With these
63
returns,
more.
The Rise of Gru has grossed 389.9 million overseas and a healthy 710 million worldwide. That is insane.
That's crazy.
Now, for me, there's some bullshit people saying, "Oh, clearly Superman doesn't drive people to the theater with like."
Oh, I wish Scott Mendelson just I would have wished he grew up in my town. I just really wish he would grew up in my town. He talked like that. You know what would have happened? I would have walking home. I would have saw him hanging by the fence on his underwear. That's what I would have saw. Because you could be snarky little shit now online and not have zero repercussions. But growing up, if you were like that, listeners, in my hometown, you were hung on the fence and you tell your underwear ripped. So yeah, just okay.
Well, that's
That is
just well. Here's the problem with that. This movie isn't about Superman.
no.
If
It's about
this
his
movie
dog.
now, I get it. Superman was in the promotion, so was Batman, but we also saw Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern. We saw Cyborg in his afro. Like this movie is about the pets. And I think unfortunately for WB, the pets phase of animated movies is long gone. Like, look at movies like Bolts and the Hotel for or the Pets movies. I think there was like a trilogy of that movie, maybe even four. I can't even remember now. Uh, those were years ago, 5+ years ago. And I think if you're gonna compete with animation from Pixar, from who is Minions? Minions is oh shoot, who?
I think that's Disney as well.
I don't think Minions is Disney. No way. I don't know if it's DreamWorks. Well, I is DreamWorks. No, DreamWorks isn't Disney. I don't know, but either way, if you're wanting to compete, because of course now I think uh across the Spider Verse or whatever, um,
Universal.
Universal. Yeah, there it is. Um, I think the Spider Verse movie, because it became a phenomenon on Netflix, I think it's going to make a shit ton more money in the box office than its predecessor. I think that you need to go out of your way to make your animated Superman theatrical movie or your Teen Titans animated theatrical movie or your whole Justice League or something. Go with Batman. You know, even Mask of the Phantasm, it went to theaters. Why aren't you putting another Batman movie? I know this is weird coming from me, I understand. But if you're going to compete with some of that stuff, Pets is the wrong way to go.
They're trying to appeal to a mass audience with that, Clay, but you're right. They have the property already at Teen Titans Go, and they're doing that with that. So to come out with another one, and the star-studded cast could not have been cheap. So it needs to make, I think it was 90 something million to make its money back.
It
It
was
should.
it was it was 90 million for the budget. But in all honesty, how much of a hit did either The Rock or other actors take because of The Rock on being on this film?
I don't know that. I don't know how that would work. I would assume we want people to get paid what the most they could get paid. I don't know though. I don't know how involved Rock is with that, but I'm going to see this film eventually. I hope it does well. Listen to DC Film Squadcast I think that's what they're still called. They've changed their name a couple times. I listened to the most recent episode talking about this, and they had both of their sons, Tim and Scott, had them on giving their reactions, and it was a hit with them. So it seems to be working for the kids that have watched it. So it might not work as well for the adults, but if the kids enjoy it, that's all that matters.
I just saw an article headline that says DC League of Super Pets star Dwayne Johnson came up with the film's post-credit scene after taking shots of tequila.
Which he
So
leaked on Instagram.
that's hilarious.
Yeah. He showed it. So
He showed it?
like the multiple pictures you could scroll across, and then WB shared that, I think, after.
Wow.
Yeah. Clay, I think that wraps up the news today. We have a lackluster, forgettable, mediocre episode of Smallville to talk about, in my opinion. I'm getting a stink face from you, which means you really enjoyed this episode. There's some stuff I liked, but I thought this episode was just another like I want to get to the freaks of the week that come back to take on Clark later on down the season.
Hey,
So these are just
apparently,
like,
hey, last episode, he comes back. The Bug Boy comes back.
oh, and
So there you
confront.
go.
I'm talking about
It
takes
must
him down
it
in the
must have
same
been an
first season.
A+ episode for you then.
You did
because
not.
he comes back.
You tried to jump on me before I finished my sentence, which I said, and come back to like go against Clark in the first season, because multiple of them do, and I can't wait for that episode.
I don't know. I feel like I'm not going to take the same route as Tom Welling did on Talkville. And the reasoning why I would grade this episode so high, I think more so I enjoyed this because this is another one of those episodes that you can say, "Hey, watch this episode. This is Smallville." You know?
Yeah. This is the gist. Well, the first few seasons of Smallville, before we get into our season-long story arcs.
Yes.
This
And
is what the first season of Smallville will be about. You're pretty right there.
and I really enjoyed this because again, you have moments at school, which again, in regards to shows and books and cartoons and whatever, if you pitch the idea, oh, it's this character when they were growing up, these kids go to school. So you get a little bit of school, you get a little bit of home, you get a little bit of side character, and you get the big problem. And I enjoyed this. You get, of course, the character progression of Lana Lang in here as well, quitting the cheer team and everything
Yeah,
else.
there's an
Uh,
actual monumental thing that happens to her for her show. She never goes back either, does she? She might no.
I
I
think
think she
she
goes back in the
does.
fourth season
She
because
does.
the
Yeah.
coach said might be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I enjoyed this because of those moments. Um uh Specifically, let's go to Lionel and Lex. Lionel, of course, John Glover. Um he is just a spectacle on screen.
Oh my God, he cuts up. He steals every scene that he's in.
And again, I think it's something that Tom Welling said. He's like, I don't know if it was the lovely locks on his hair or just the fact that he is an experienced actor. But yeah, just like you said, he does just eat away the scene, and it is so good. Um, I always thought that this actor, John Glover, growing up watching this show, he must be some real big piece of shit because of how well he acts this character.
He does a good
And
job of that.
I have met John Glover 3 times. He is the sweetest soul I think I have ever met. Again, he has some opinions that he has shared online that aren't really my cup of tea when it comes to the DCEU, Superman, and everything else. But he's a really sweet guy. And this scene, just like the whole idea of like, hey, we are assholes, so we need to be assholes. We're going to fire these people, and you need to fire them now. And I love the idea of Lex Luthor saying, no, just because he wants to say no to his father.
Yes, and he wants to show his father that basically I can take this crap factory you gave me and I can turn it around and show you like we don't have to do it your way. We don't have to have everybody hating us. We don't have to lose the court public name in these rural towns be crap. And
Yeah.
because what do we see with him and Jonathan? The exact same thing. Jonathan doesn't want to give Lex the time of day because of his father. So
Yeah.
Lex is trying to outrun his father, and this is a step for that. And I'm all here for that. Like you said, I love these scenes. This was a really enjoyable part of the episode. What was frustrating was like Principal Quan. I mean, like call some backup, dude. Like the coach is looks like he could be on the offensive line for the team, and you're going there to confront him, a known person that gets very mad. That just seemed like in this day and age, cops would be coming with Principal Kwan to the, but then we wouldn't have a show. So I understand. It just sometimes it's hard to suspend belief in those things.
So, so stretching disbelief and whatnot on this episode is something that I really love, just because they brought it up in Talkville, but I immediately saw it. Of course, we watch these episodes and then we listen to the podcast because we don't want to get any of our own opinions wishy-washy or whatever. Um, there is no sprinkler system in Smallville High School that works. None whatsoever. No fire alarms, no nothing. Apparently, this
No,
this school would be completely destroyed in uh fire, like what is it called,
or hundreds of kids would be burned.
regulations. Like the regulations, like they would be fined so hard. um like
Cool effect, though. Cool effect for the time. I thought it was really cool
well,
whenever
no, well
he would
not
get the sprinkler fires.
not only the actual sprinklers, but like the actual sprinklers inside the building. Like when a
Yeah.
fire goes off, those sprinklers should be bursting and like putting these fires out. No water whatsoever, like nothing.
No.
And everybody, like I think it was Tom that said that the principal just like looks at the fire and then just walks away.
Yeah, after he stares at it. It's the same thing as the last episode where Lex was staring at Clark as he was getting sick when he opened up the box. It's like that. You're like, you're seeing this. Like, what are you? And you've just, it was really funny. The torch going up in flames, I thought was funny. Torch. And they did make a funny joke, Rosenbaum did, about Allison
Oh
Mack.
God.
They went there. I wanted to text you immediately after I heard that. I was like, but I'm going to wait for the podcast. It was brutal. They essentially said that someone joked about somebody joining a cult.
yeah,
Chloe
she,
joked about it.
yeah, she was talking about how uh the football cult or whatever tries to take me out, and all you have to do is say, "Hey, nice catch," or something like that. And so Rosenbaum made the joke uh,
Well, he basically
about,
yeah.
yeah, about football cults and sex cults. Uh, it looked like Tom Welling was very uncomfortable at that moment. But I about this episode, the villain Dan uh oh shoot. Loria, I think his name. He's on the Wonder Years, I think the old time show was.
Yeah.
Uh he sold it, man. He was such a good choice for this hothead coach. The
You
whole
got
thing about
instantly what he wanted and what he was about. He was all about winning. That was
yeah,
instant.
this whole thing about his legacy, how he needs to win every match and whatnot. Really enjoyed that. We have, of course, uh uh David Pateco or Pateka, of course, playing Trevor. Of course, he actually got to be a cameo in Man of Steel. He's the actor who gives Superman his name on screen.
Yeah.
He's the one that's like, oh, they're calling him Superman. Um, so it was really cool seeing him again. Uh, but yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I'm trying to remember if there was any big scenes with the Kents other than the fact that there was a lot of tension between John and Clark in this episode.
This is understandable. Jonathan don't want Clark to play football because he's afraid that they don't understand his powers either. This is very early. I in the season 4, I'm a little bit more like on Clark's side, but here where they don't even know like anything about his powers yet, really, and they haven't had Jarrell, I'm still a little bit on Jonathan's side of he could trip up and just accidentally go into somebody and destroy them.
Yeah.
So, like, I can understand, but I also can understand Clark when you're here. All you hear about is your father, how awesome he was, and how the team was only good back then. And oh my God, look at you! You're a big strapping boy. You could be quarterback. How come you're not playing? So
And the thing is, I don't ever think that they have this discussion, but we will see since we're watching
I
every
think they
single
do in
episode
season
again.
4. I think he
Well,
mentioned something about this.
well, no, I just like I want to see them have the conversation of like, hey, I need to get better at being this person with powers
Yeah,
instead of just like going like because it is assumed that with every season he gets better at using his powers, right?
it's just naturally
But
assumed every day if you had your
ex-
powers, you would instantly get a little bit better at it.
exactly, but I want there to be an intentional conversation of like, hey, because you think I could hurt somebody, let me prove to you that I can do this without. And they kind of had that conversation when everything was said and done, like how John was like, "Of course, like I want you to be successful and I want you to do these things. I want you to grow up normal, quote unquote, but you do have these powers." I want there to be a conversation of more of like, "Hey, like let's test out the speed. Let's see how fast you can go and things like that." I don't remember off the top of my head if there was moments like that with his
There
other
will be a
powers.
moment that you'll be really happy about in season 4 with this. I'm not going to say anything else because I know exactly what I'm talking about and remember it. And I think you're going to really enjoy uh, some of the stuff Clark does in season 4 to play football and
My
to
my
show his father.
memories of this show get really fuzzy 4, 5, and 6.
Not terrible when you're forgetting a lot of the stupid witch story arc, but
Hey,
there is some good
I
episodes
still
in there.
remember them strutting into the barn though.
Okay, you just remember the hot scene. You're like, "Oh, that was cool." Just wait till he starts watching it, and you get this nonsense of 13th century witches, and you're like, "I'm watching a Superman show. What the hell is this garbage?" Clay's just like, "I remember when I was 16. God, those 4 girls were some hot, 3 girls were some hot, white guys strutting their stuff." I'm like, "Oh God, this is like puberty." Clay saying, "Like, I love this show."
Oh, my back is in so much pain from laughing. Jesus. Okay. Well, I think that's really it.
Yeah,
Um
I did wanna say one other thing. I did enjoy that, he got his powers from the coals in the sauna, and, they were kryptonite rocks in there. I did thought that was really
the
funny.
fact that smoke or whatever was pure green and he had not questioned it whatsoever, I'm like
He
okay,
definitely thought it was
whatever.
weed. He definitely thought it was weed.
uh but with that, the next episode I believe is going to be X-ray.
Yeah, we
uh
get new power.
So we get a new power, we get a new villain, of course, Freak of the Week. I really like this episode. Um, More so not because of the scene I know you're thinking of. But but just I always love the idea of Clark not being like super okay with the powers that he has, that he's kind of scared of things like this. And so it does freak him out a bit. And I do like those scenes a whole lot. And just the X-ray effect back then, of course, it's gotten a lot better now. But this I thought was just so cool back in the day.
And it also works really well with the villain that they have for this week. So that's all I would
Yes.
say about that. I'm excited. This is an episode I enjoy, Clay. It's not like the other 2. So I'm excited to talk about this one next week.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for lasting this long. It was a very nice episode. Some random predictions I didn't think I was going to make this episode, but of course you can always find me on Twitter at fanboyclay. Go into the link tree in my bio. You can find all the links that I for the shows that I host, that including DC Alliance, Batman News Weekly, Ranger Alliance, and of course Star Wars Alliance.
And you can find me on Twitter at Travis_156. You can drop me a line. We can chat about DC anytime. I also host superhero discussions on the podcast network. We are reviewing Harley Quinn, the animated series, and it's going to be dropping Saturdays and Sundays during Harley Quinn's run to get you guys the episodes as quick as possible. And also, don't worry, Wednesday you're going to get the conclusion of Spectacular Spider-Man from me, my thoughts on the last 3 episodes, so we can close out that chapter and move forward. I'm tossing around ideas, but I think I'm going to hold it because we have Rick and Morty coming in in a month and 2 days. So I can't wait for that.
All right. Well, with that, guys, thank you so much. And we will see you next